What's happening right now is a direct consequence of Republicans being in power. Don't get me wrong, you can hate Democrats. Do Democrats do a good job defending civil rights? No. Do Democrats do a good job doing anything at all, ever, at any point, anywhere? No. Have they fulfilled their promise at protecting Roe v. Wade federally? No, they didn't. Though I will note, by the way, people are saying Joe Biden could just do it right now. No, he can't. He would have to get rid of the Senate filibuster, which he can't because of Joe Manchin and Sinema, and they're the kingmakers in the Senate because they have a 50-50 split. So if there were more Democrats in the Senate, then that wouldn't be the issue. Okay, listen up, people. I understand the urge to engage in sociological analysis, but first and foremost, it is critical to understand the fact that Republicans are demons wearing human flesh. You can fault Democrats for being incompetent or maliciously incompetent. I mean, and you can, and you should, by the way. I encourage you to. But most Democrats, I don't feel they're actual envoys of Satan wearing human flesh. Republicans, however, this is a requirement for entry, and I want it to be known. And I talked about this a little bit on Twitter, but I think it's very important to insist on this. Anti-abortion, pro-forced birth advocates do not give a single shit about the unborn. This can be evidenced in a variety of ways. First of all, what are two very basic, common sense policies that everyone who sincerely cares about fetuses would support? Anyone who doesn't want abortions, right? You would want two things. You would want access to free contraception, because you want every birth to be deliberate, because if it's not deliberate, that increases the likelihood of abortion. And you want prenatal care. Those are the two big ones. Sex ed as well. No, three big ones. Sex ed, prenatal care, subsidized by the government, free, the way civilized countries do, and access to contraception. Republicans support none of these. In fact, they're opposed to all three. Republicans are against access to contraception. They are against sex education, and they are against any kind of positive changes to our healthcare system. They do not care. What is prenatal care? Care for a pregnant, making sure the womb's healthy and everything, making sure everything's going on well. They do not care. Okay, the reason they care is because they want to control women. That is it. That is, at the end of the day, that is it, okay? To the conservative, women having sex outside of the socially ordained, divinely ordained, controlled format of a monogamous marriage is sinful. It is degenerate. And the primary agent of this degeneracy is, of course, the woman. Now, Republicans don't care that much if guys sleep around. This is very basic slut-shaming logic, right? You can talk about monogamy all you want, but when guys sleep around, it's like, hey, and if girls sleep around, they get shamed and kicked out of their social circles in a lot of conservative places. In the Bible Belt, girls will lose everything if they're accused of being a slut. And guys, by the same, we're talking about divine social standards here, right? You'd think it'd go both ways, but of course it doesn't. It's about controlling women. And when you have legal abortion, when you have sex ed, when you have access to contraceptions, in the mind of the conservative, you are facilitating a degenerate lifestyle. You are building for people the availability of that lifestyle, which they don't want. They want every act of sex done by a woman to carry weighty consequences that they will have to deal with for basically the rest of their lives, And don't get me wrong, by the way, right now they're going after abortion, but they will go after contraception. They already have. Republicans, famously just a few years ago, made a strong effort to prevent birth control from being one of the, obligated aspects of healthcare that workers, what was it, the Hobby Lobby, right? Hobby Lobby, that was the place, their Supreme Court decision. So they don't have to provide birth control, They want to, and you can look all over the place for examples of this. There are plenty of openly anti-contraception Republicans at the federal and state level. You can find examples of them making an effort to legally distinguish certain types of birth control in a way which makes them overlap with abortion. where legislatively, they push against abortion, but, what is contraception if not a preemptive abortion? There has actually been an effort to legally cordon birth control in a way that fits it in a similar category. And this is part of a broader process to legally disenfranchise access to reliable forms of birth control. IUDs, birth control, whatever, the shots that you can take, the implants, the goal would be to make these things more expensive, less accessible, and to impose essentially government penalties for the provided availability of these forms of contraception. If you don't think they'll do that, then keep in mind that for decades it has been illegal to fund abortions with tax dollars. Even though abortion is a constitutionally, for now, constitutionally protected right, and even though it is undeniably a form of health care, it has been law that abortions can't be funded with tax dollars. Planned Parenthood funds their abortion programs, a tiny fraction of what they do, through donations, not through tax dollars. This is the case everywhere. It's just legally prevented. And they'll do the same for others. They will go after condoms. You think they won't? Take a look right now at the way conservatives are talking about the epidemic of grooming. Are you gay in public? You're grooming. Have you ever even thought about being transgender? Congratulations, you're a groomer. They were very concerned about false allegations 5 years ago when Me Too was the big flavor. But now, I guarantee you this is going to happen, okay? Conservative parents are going to start walking through their local Target. They're going to be in like the CVS section, and they're going to see the condom section. They tend to have the condoms behind like the locked drawer because people steal condoms all the time. So they tend to have it behind the locked like glass case or the plastic case, right? There are going to be pictures of them. They're going to take a picture of that and they're going to go, why when I'm walking through the store with my kid, do we see stuff like this on the shelves? What is this, a sex shop? Not at my gas station. No, do you think they wouldn't do this? Anyone here think this is a joke or an exaggeration? Do you really think they wouldn't do this? Oh, of course they would. That would be step number one. It's really, really, really difficult. They already do this, don't get me wrong, but I'm talking Tucker Carlson segments. I'm talking like full-blown conservative coverage of this. They're going to talk about how this is a form of grooming. Why would you expose children to stuff like that? And what the goal of this is going to be to try to push for public support for legislation against the legality of having condoms and other forms of topical, does anyone use spermicide? I've never heard of anyone using spermicide in the modern day and age. But, whatever, stuff like that, from being available in, like, regular stores. And then it would just be in the sex shops. And mind you, if we live in a world where the only place you can get contraception is by physically going to a sex shop, not a healthcare clinic or just a regular store, we've already lost, This is effectively an unacceptable degree of inaccessibility. Right off the bat. There's no limit to, also that means people under 18 can't get condoms too, which is perfect for Republicans because they love impregnating their child brides. This is their goal, okay? Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, why would they do this? Why would they want, what's the goal here? This isn't economically or socially beneficial. No one's lives are better because of this. They want this because they hate you. It's because they're evil and they hate you. That's the only reason why, They defy sociological analysis. They simply desire your suffering. That is it. That's the only thing that explains their behavior. You can trying to understand their motivations is like trying to understand the motivations of a Captain Planet villain. I'll drive an oil tanker out into the middle of the Atlantic, then blow it up so that we get oil to cover all the fish. Okay, why? Because they're a Captain Planet villain. That's why. And because they're Republicans. And Captain Planet villains are all Republicans. So, that also fits. Are you describing the GOP or your average Republican? I am describing the GOP right now. Republican voters are split between three categories in relation to this particular subject. First of all, you have the hardliners who are as morally reprehensible as the people they elect, okay? A good portion of Republican voters are just also that evil, It's not like we live in a country where there are people who oppose interracial marriage, people who will kick out their LGBT children if they ever come out. You know, people who will firebomb abortion clinics. These aren't elected officials doing this. These are Republican voters. So yeah, there are a lot of Republican voters that are just that evil. You know, there are Republican voters who are weak-minded, stupid, or otherwise easily swayed, and will just sort of follow the tide of whatever information they consume. At the end of the day, you know, people care about what they're told to care about. If you're already watching Fox News every day, like, they've got you by the hook. You know, I mean, like, Tucker Carlson can go on there and say whatever, and like your political positions are just going to just be crafted into whatever mainstream Republican narrative they're trying to sell. I don't think these people are evil in the same way. Their outcomes are. I mean, they're still voting, but, you know, I don't think they're doing it out of a malicious desire to see the degenerates suffer. I think it's just, I think a lot of people just follow the wave, basically. And then I think you have a decent number of Republicans who have, like, hook issues that, like, they're like single issue voters, and they care so much about some things that they're willing to make sacrifices on other things. Keep in mind, I think this was posted by SDL on Twitter, but there is not a single state in the entirety of the United States which has more than 30% of its constituency in favor of revoking Roe v. Wade. In every single state in the United States, Alabama, Mississippi, Idaho, in every single one, 70% or more. Yeah, here we go. This was Data for Progress, not SDL. But what is SDL if not Data for Progress? Look at that. Every state in the union, 70% or more in favor of oh, sorry. This isn't the Roe v. Wade statistic. My apologies. This is a federal ban on abortion, which is not the same thing. My apologies. I mistook this graph for another. I think still something like 68%. I think that's the number that Elizabeth Warren gave when she was talking earlier. Something like 68, 69% of Americans are in favor of Roe v. Wade. This is on a federal ban for abortion. 72. She said 69. Nice. Just making sure. Look, whatever. You know, however you're parsing the numbers out here. The point is, most Americans, this isn't to their favor, you know. And there are, by the way, a lot of Republicans who vote Republican but are still, like, pro-choice. In fact, the last, I think, 2021 Gallup poll showed something like 30 to 40% of Republican voters were either pro-choice or, you know, like they're okay with it sometimes. You know, they're not hardliner, like, crazy ban all abortion types. The point that I'm getting at here is there are a lot of people who vote red who aren't, like, super crazy partisan on this issue. And I think a lot of that just comes down to these people thinking, like, okay, well, maybe I don't support the revocation of Roe v. Wade, but, you know, something has to be done about the border, you know, that kind of thing. Where it's not that they're monstrous on this particular position, it's that there are other issues that they've been given the impression they need to kind of, like, fall in line to support them as a group, if that makes any sense. Anyway, the reason I'm distinguishing between these three groups isn't because I think any of them should be exonerated of the consequences of those they vote for. All these groups of Republicans are responsible for where we're at today. Actually, we should talk directly about who's responsible. We should just run off a list, shall we, okay? RBG, didn't retire. Stupid bitch. What the fuck is wrong with you? You died. Why would you do that? You should have retired. Thanks. You know? Let us add a hearty condemnation to, let's be real, Bernier busters. Yeah, like Jimmy Dore types. 100%. Remember that clip with Jimmy Dore arguing with Sam Cedar? And Jimmy Dore asks incredulously, well, what if Trump appoints 3 Supreme Court justices? Guys, if Hillary Clinton had won in 2016, the court would be stacked 6-3. Blue. And we would have Roe v. Wade. No matter how you feel about Hillary, and Lord knows I hate the woman, but that is inarguable. Absolutely inarguable. 3 Supreme Court justices. Yeah, where's that clip? Here, hold on. A completely random clip. Oh yeah, it got posted on my subreddit. One more time, just a little blast from the past here, huh?
I want you to vote. I don't care who you vote for. You live in California. What I want you to do is to stop offering theories about politics on your platform that are bogus, that are not.
Yeah, well, I think I just proved to you they're not bogus, Sam. You haven't proved that they're bogus at all, except that you said it. Well, I think I just kind of showed you how you're wrong about all this stuff, and you're voting out of fear again. Out of fear. Oh, because there might be 2 Supreme Court judges. What if there's 3? What if the moon falls into Lake Michigan?
What if there are 3 Supreme Court picks Trump gets? What if the moon falls into Lake Michigan? Guess we should really be looking out for a lunar trajectory towards Lake Michigan, since he got one of these 2, right?
What are we going to do then?
Now, Jimmy, let's talk about risk assessment. Do you think there's a difference in the probability that 2 80-year-olds with multiple cases of cancer are going to serve out their term versus the moon falling into Lake Michigan?
I just disagree with your forecasting, Sam. I don't agree with it. I think it's a bigger risk.
Do you want to look at actuarial tables for the life expectancy of an 80-year-old man who's had multiple cancers?
Sam, I can right now get you a great deal on term life insurance, and you know that's the best insurance there is.
I have term.
He doesn't even take it seriously.
See? You know it. Sam, this is about me being better looking, isn't it?
I mean, listen, it's not funny to me, and that's the problem. Is that it is not funny to me. I think it's really dangerous. What is dangerous? That people vote their conscience? No, I think what's dangerous is using your platform and espousing fantastical notions that I think that could be really detrimental to the lives of literally millions of people.
And then, of course, we have the press secretary for Bernie Sanders' campaign back in 2017, right after Trump got inaugurated on the 2nd of February. So, I think that a decent amount of derision is deserved towards these people. Now, I don't think Bernie or Busters got Trump to win in 2016. I don't think that's true. It's not true. Every assessment we have of who voted for who back in 2016 do not suggest Bernie or Busters were a relevant force. There were fewer Bernie Sanders supporters who went on to vote for Trump in 2016 than Hillary Clinton supporters voting for McCain back in 2008 after she lost to Obama in the primaries for the Democratic Party. So, yeah, I don't buy that, but I still think it's okay to personally hate all of these people right now. And I do want to say, in response to, because there's this big wave of anti-electoralism going on right now where people are like, just go vote. What do you mean, just go vote? I just want to say this, okay? I just want to say this, all right? It is wild to me how we're on the 85th billionth example of lefties looking at the consequences of Republicans winning elections and going, damn, looks like we didn't achieve anything. We need to stop fighting against Republicans winning elections in the future. What's happening right now is a direct consequence of Republicans being in power. But for some reason, they're turning on Democrats. Don't get me wrong. You can hate Democrats. Do Democrats do a good job defending civil rights? No. Do Democrats do a good job doing anything at all, ever, at any point, anywhere? No. Do Democrats, have they fulfilled their promise at protecting Roe v. Wade federally? No, they didn't. Though I will note, by the way, people are saying Joe Biden could just do it right now. No, he can't. He would have to get rid of the Senate filibuster, which he can't because of Joe Manchin and Sinema, and they're the kingmakers in the Senate because they have a 50-50 split. So if there were more Democrats in the Senate, then that wouldn't be the issue. Didn't they literally make an effort to get that women's rights bill passed? What was that? The ERA, right? Yeah, the ERA. They literally tried to. Didn't Manchin hold it up? Yeah. Could he not do anything via executive order? No. No, 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 no. The laws concerning what you can do with executive order are complicated, but a lot of lefties seem to think that it's literally like he has a button on his desk that he can just do to magically do laws. It has to do, the executive branch's job is to enforce existing laws, and there's a lot of work they can do within that purview, you know, the regulations that they can enforce through the executive branch. But when we're talking about federally protecting the right to an abortion, that is a legislative thing. That's a law, not a policy, you know. So that's not something that he can just do. Right now, Joe can't do anything magical about this, you know, apart from make this a bigger issue, be more vocal about it, which of course I support him doing. But listen, anyone who approaches this with this indignant, like, well, voting doesn't work, buddy, do you really think things would have been better if fewer Democrats had won back in 2020? Like, come on, think for a sec, right? Like, come on. Girl, like, come on, grow, like, really? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Bosch, if I might ask, didn't Trump do some things in that manner suggested? If so, thoughts on Biden using that ability? No. Trump didn't do the laws with regards to what you can do with executive orders. It's very complicated. I don't pretend to know all of it, but I do know for a fact that you can't do something like that. And if Joe Biden tried, it would get held up in the courts. Like, it would be shot down every time, like immediately. Any legal protection for abortion would need to be done through Congress, because we're talking about something that needs to be maintained uncontroversially for decades moving forward. It's not like throwing out these unconstitutional band-aids is not enough to meaningfully address the issue. It doesn't fix anything. And we should aim for something higher than that. In reality, what we really want is a constitutional amendment with a sort of, you know, more specific provision for civil rights protections. But we're never going to get that, because you would need, like, what is it, 2/3 of the states to ratify it, and it's not going to happen because like half the states are red. Yeah. Vosh acting like HRC would get 3 SCOTUS nominees through as a fever dream. McConnell would have blocked every nominee for 4+ years. I don't think that's true, but even if that was, then after the senatorial election, then you would just have Joe Biden in office in 2020, and then they would have the 50 plus the 1 tiebreaker with Kamala Harris. I don't think he could have blocked the nominee for 4+ years. Yeah. Isn't that just an argument to vote for more Senate Democrats? Yes. I reaffirm this, and people can get as mad at me as they want to, but like this childish, impetuous, like anti-electoralism for nonsensical reasons. You know, listen, is voting enough? No, okay? The full purview of political action, which I support people taking in this moment, goes well beyond what the YouTube TOS will allow me to say, all right? But is voting helpful? Yes, undeniably. It is obviously much, much, much easier to get stuff done when the world is not, well, when America is not, but America is the world, not completely controlled by Republicans, of course, obviously. And if you ever want an example as to how electoralism can make a difference, look at which states are about to pass total abortion bans. Is it the red states or is it the blue states? Blue states are about to become a haven for people with regards to reproductive health. Red states are about to become dystopian in this regard, you know? Clearly, there is a difference. You can't tell some poor, like, Hispanic mom of 2 who's pregnant with an unwanted third, who's trying to cross over the Texas border to get to Colorado for an abortion because it's illegal in the state she's in. Like, did you know there's no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans? Like, tell that to her, you know? Like, clearly not. How many suicides this going to cause? It's definitely going to have a positive effect in them. And I mean positive in the statistical sense, not the moral sense. They will go up. Yeah. Look at the Scullion moron. Yeah, you don't need to... Oh, wait, when did Sean block me? I didn't know Sean blocked me. I thought we just didn't follow each other. I just knew we weren't oomphies. Here, we can look at this thread real quick. I love yelling at lefties. Haven't seen explanation from the vote blue no matter who folks why Obama didn't try to codify Roe when he had big majorities. Because Democrats suck. Nobody denies this. If you think he couldn't do it, why did he promise he would try? He could, and he sucks. Are you okay with being lied to? No, all politicians lie to you, except for Bernie. Love Bernie. Vote for the people promising to codify Roe, even if they make no effort to? Yes, because it's better to vote for the people who lie when they promise to codify Roe than to vote for the people who say they will repeal it. What's the conceivable path to progress voting blue no matter who? That doesn't give us progress. It just forestalls fascist advance while we make progress through direct action. Every Republican gets voted out for everywhere everywhere forever. What? But why are these arguments always so stupid? Like, I understand they're meant to be like rhetorical, but like, if you think about any of these questions for like 1/8 of a second, the answers are really obvious. You don't actually have to think about like, okay. But the Dem leadership doesn't even want that. They want a strong Republican Party. Yep, Dems suck. But if the R's are strong and even an Obama mandate can't protect basic rights, it did protect basic rights for the length of the Obama term. See? Because Obama was nominating left-leaning Supreme Court judges and wasn't Trump. And then Trump came along, appointed 3 Republican Supreme Court justices, and now abortion rights are going away. So there was a consequence to letting Republicans win. Pretty straightforward. No matter how Democrats do, their excuse for their action comes back. You didn't vote enough. Yep, Democrats suck. Majorities are never real. Supermajorities are never real. There's always some precedent or technicality to prevent action. Yep, Democrats suck. And their advocates punch down at voters who get tired of this. Yeah, they suck. But they'll fundraise off those issues, then go on to back the conservative Dems who end up blocking their purported agendas. Our majorities aren't real. They've made sure of it. Okay. Anyone saying they only back conservative Dems in place where progressives would win? 1, this isn't true. That's true. 2, if they refuse to back you, just voted for us anyway. Who gives a shit? Spend the money and time. Okay. Yeah, this is just really dumb. It's just, yeah, it's just low IQ, you know. So I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's an aesthetic obsession. For a lot of people, leftism isn't about making the world a better place or improving the lives of people. It is a brand, okay? It's like having a supreme brick that you throw at people. It's 100% an aesthetic composure, something to use to represent yourself. It has nothing to do with actual values achieved. So for a lot of people, the highest priority is making sure they don't look like liberals, and the way they do that is anytime anything happens anywhere, they complain about Democrats and liberals and say they're never voting for them again, no matter how tangentially related it actually is. It's often quite, none. Here's far-right trash gloating about the SCOTUS ruling. We don't need to look at far-right trash gloating about the SCOTUS ruling. We know that they are. It's deeper than that. It's a misplaced sense of pride. It's a threat to their identity to be cucked by the system, even though... No, a lot of it is a pride thing. So the funny thing is like a lot of the logic that the anti-electoral left will use is really, really, really similar to the kind of reactive, toxic, paranoid pride-mongering that far-right people do, or like toxic masculinity or whatever. Because there's a very obvious aversion to investing in a system that you know you're going to get cucked by. You know, like that's always the line. It's like, hey, you voted for these guys. It doesn't actually have anything to do with the outcomes you achieve. It's a sense of pride. It's, well, at least I didn't participate in the system that's failing. But that's not a good way to participate in politics. It's politics. Everyone's getting cucked to varying extents, So it's, yeah, it's very dumb. It's very, very dumb. It's branding. It is branding. It's definitely branding. What are your thoughts in 2024? We're fucked. These morons will never say what the better solution is than voting. A lot of their arguments rely on the deeply unfounded and very stupid presupposition that voting and direct action are mutually exclusive. I don't know why they always talk as though that's the case and then never justify it. Like they never justify, like they always talk as though that's a pre-assumed fact that you either vote or you do direct action, as though voting doesn't just take up like 1 or 2 hours of one day. Sometimes there are lines, but like, okay, like not very much time at all every 2 years. And they're like, well, you're doing that, I'm doing direct action. And what direct action are these Twitter lefties doing, by the way? What direct action is Sean doing, okay? This dude's talked before about he's so socially anxious he won't go on live streams. Like he's out there fucking leading Black Bloc, Absolutely ridiculous. It's not about direct action. It's about implying that you're doing it by not doing the electoralism bit. It's very silly. It's just, we don't need to harp on this. I've made all these talking points before. Just right now, I sincerely believe that the most coherent and best response out of this tragedy, the incoming revocation of Roe v. Wade, has been from liberal voters, the libs. As embarrassing as they are, I think they're doing better right now, because all I see from lefties on social media is screeching about how they're not liberals. That's all I see. Like, that's it, Like, look at all the top threads right now from like lefty Twitter users or whatever, and it's about how the Republicans are monstrous and how the right to an abortion is like fundamental and so on. And then look at all the top trending stuff from lefties, and it's like this evidence of Republicans doing monstrous stuff is the reason why I won't be voting Democrat next year. And it's like, thank you. We know you're a leftist. Thank you. You've signaled. You have virtue signaled to me. Your virtue is signaled. I recognize the virtue that you have signaled, you know. And of course, conservatives are you know, being conservatives about this. So they're obviously by far the villain here. But yep, there we go. Thank you, liberals, for being the vanguard of civil rights. Woo, love that. Love that. You said we're doing some canvassing this year. Still at the Hill, or will be for an organization like Planned Parenthood said. No, canvassing, like proper canvassing, like going out and doing canvassing with. I'll give you guys updates when I have updates. Okay, it's not as though I'm not talking with folks behind the scenes. You don't want to preempt this stuff too much. I think I have a lot of like really big ideas. How's the cheese? I promise there will be cheese wheels. It helps that we're in a bit of a COVID slump right now. That makes the whole thing a lot more viable as well. Yeah, you know. Yeah. We all want cheese. Thank you. We all want cheese. Don't say we're fucked and not elaborate. Come on. What do you want from me? What, you think your one comment's gonna? I have to go into a spiel on it? Right now, polling just doesn't look very good for Democrats. Do you consider cheese a seasoning? No, you're disgusting. Anyway, shh. Okay, hush. God, debate the Supreme Court live. I would love to debate the Supreme Court. You think those pussies could handle real debate? Okay, they do their 80-year-old octogenarian, you know, legalese debate, citing legal precedent. Nah, I'm gonna call them so many slurs. They're going to be so fucking. I'm gonna interrupt them every like nanosecond. This would be the strategy that I invoke if I ever debate Chomsky as well in the 5 minutes that he has left on the NATO thing. You know. Are you mad? 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 Old plus fell off plus fell off, bro. You fell off. Ha ha. Ratio. Woo, you know, something like that. The modern Socrates. Thank you. Remember they used the African American women get more abortions line. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Come on, Vosh, you're going to be 107 one day, too. I don't think I'm going to. I don't think I eat that healthy. Will the leak help in midterms? Yes. In fact, the decision from the Supreme Court is so politically motivated and so suspiciously timed that I wouldn't be surprised at all if they had actually planned on going public with the court ruling, like, right after the 2022 midterms. And one of the reasons the right wing is screaming about how the leak is the biggest attack on democracy in all of human history is because it revealed this before the midterm election. I actually wouldn't be surprised if this was 100% a coordinated political goal where the Republican Party and the Supreme Court justices were like, okay, well, you need to time this like perfectly here so we can get it done, but it won't affect the outcome. I can't prove that's true. However, like the fact that it usually takes like months for these things. This is a first draft. It usually takes months to arrive at the final version that gets published. It's being done preempted, and we're months out from the election. You know, like we're in, you know, we're what, 4 months out? I mean, that's 4 months is actually like a reasonable length of time between first draft and publishing on a Supreme Court opinion. So it's 6 months. Yeah, so like it'd go farther back as well, you know. So I don't know. It's just very suspicious timing. Very, very, very suspicious timing. The final decision was going to be in June when the Supreme Court decisions are published. Is that true? If it was going to be in June, that would be before the election. I would need to look into that then. I could be wrong. Yeah. Planning on releasing 2 months from now. Okay, if that's the case, if it was planned in June, then if that's the case, they might have been planning this for a boost of energy right before. Either way, I still think it's political, you know, but yeah, I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see. When more information comes out. I clerked the Supreme Court. Last night, I assumed a liberal clerk leaked the draft opinion overturning Roe. Now I think it much more likely it was leaked by a conservative fanatically committed to every word of Alito's monstrous opinion. Timing, this draft was circulated in February. If a liberal was mad about it, why wait till April to send to Politico? The op will be out in June. Okay, June, never mind. Okay. What are the benefits of releasing it early? And a big downside, the focus on the leak itself instead of the opinion. If you work inside the court, you know that the most concrete impact of the leak is to lock in this opinion essentially as is. Any edits to this point reveal jockeying between justices, undermine the majority of the court itself, embarrassing the majority. Liberals have lived for years trying to eke out a sentence here or there in SCOTUS opinions to try to make these conservative decisions less terrible. Why leak something and undermine that whole strategy? This is actually a really, really, really good point. The fact that it's been leaked means that it's almost impossible to edit it for political reasons, because any edits done to it will be interpreted as a product of public outrage rather than actual legal consideration within the court. So it might have been leaked in its initial and most conservative format as a way of essentially cementing it into the public record and casting dispersion on any future edits. That's actually a much more plausible explanation. Far and away, the most likely impact of the draft is that it locks in 5 votes to this opinion, essentially without edits. Who would want that? So this is about as extreme an opinion you can have overturning Roe. It talks about fetuses being people as a matter of ancient law, teeing up ideas that fetuses are constitutionally protected, no abortion anywhere as a matter of common law. Its arguments undermine all of SCOTUS's gay right and contraception decisions. That's true. Back to timing, draft majority circulate first, then concurrences and dissents. So this is about the right timing for concurrences to come out. I think best bet is that Chief Justice Roberts circulated one recently, adopting a more moderate position. Maybe Roberts says abortion's okay for some time frame, preserving exceptions for women. Kavanaugh is tempted by it, maybe not enough to vote for it. It's psychology. Damn, this is actually a really good point. Let me retweet this. I'm confused. Why would the right leak it? Because if a conservative court leaked it here in its first draft state, it essentially locks in both the content, the draft, and the votes for it. It prevents future change because future changes will be seen as a product of public outrage rather than legal engagement within, you know? Yeah, I suspect it's going to get worse. Like a lot worse, at least in red states. Like there are going to be, my guess is that they're never going to be able to like pass any federal legislation banning any of this stuff, but they will be able to use the Supreme Court, which will be conservative for a long time, in order to revoke federal protections. I wonder if it'll get as far as like revocations of the Civil Rights Act. Like, they can't overturn the constitutional amendment itself, but they could definitely, through interpretation of existing precedent, like, basically get to the point where it's like, businesses have a right to, businesses have a right to decide whether or not they want to do business with certain types of people, like that kind of thing. They might at least give leeway to it. I don't know if it would ever go that far, but it's definitely like, they'll just be like, I'm an originalist. Yeah. Haha, I don't joke. Like, I'm not joking. As blue states will remain safe for the most part, I think. We'll see. I wonder if Texas is ever going to switch over to a blue state. Like, more and more people are pouring into that state, into like big cities like Austin and Houston, which tend to be more Democrat voting. I wonder if eventually Texas, if we could get like a Blexus situation where they get like DeSantis, not just removed from governorship, of course, but tried at The Hague. And then they like take over the state legislature and Texas because if Texas ever went blue, that would be amazing. First of all, that's tens of millions of people who would be. Oh, did I say DeSantis? Sorry, Abbott. Sorry, Florida. Yeah. Sorry, Abbott, not DeSantis. Still trial at The Hague. It going blue would be huge, and it would also mean that the 3 big states are blue now. Because New York and California are very blue, and that's not going to change. And having Texas sort of move over would be very significant, very, very significant. Florida is bigger than New York now. In terms of population, probably. New York State's population has been kind of waning, right? And Florida's has been skyrocketing. I wonder if Florida's going to ever go blue. The more populous a state gets, the larger its cities get, and the larger its cities get, the more likely that state is to be blue. The more urban of a population in any state, the more likely it is to go blue. So I guess we'll have to see. I don't trust Florida at all. Me either. Any switch in Florida it'll take like a while. Florida's been trending in a bad direction. Yeah, I think that's mostly because of the DeSantis's like gubernatorial activism. I think a lot of Florida moving more red is because DeSantis has been such an active force in the Republican Party that he's really galvanized like the red voter base in Florida. And I think that has a disproportionate effect on the voting demographics in Florida. Not to say that if it wasn't for DeSantis, it would be like blue or whatever, just that it's definitely like a weighted influence. Hispanics make up a large part of South Texas, and as of late, Dems are losing Latin voters. Yeah, the funny thing is like, dude, I think Bernie would have won, at least in 2016. Bernie did really good with Latin voters, didn't he? Like really, really, really good in a way that Joe Biden didn't, at least in 2020. Like Joe Biden did way better with black voters. But black voters, the ones that didn't go for Bernie, probably would have voted blue anyway. I don't know how many black Southern moderate voters would have voted for Joe Biden over Trump, but would have voted for Trump over Bernie, you know? I feel like they're not as swing. These are legacy blue voters. But for the Latin voters that Biden would have, or Bernie would have been better at picking up, I feel like that actually, there was more of a swing there. Now, we can't go back and change history. I don't know if Bernie would win Georgia, though. I don't know. He was in a better position in 2016. I think he would have won in 2016. Joe Biden did win in 2020, you know, but the Democrats do need to do a better job courting Hispanic voters. Maybe we need to wheel Hillary Clinton out, you know? She can talk about how she's everyone's abuela, and she can have the little bottle of hot sauce in her purse. That'll be good. I feel like that. I feel like that really. I feel like that'd really work out, you know. The weird thing is, like, in terms of demographic representation, I have no idea why Joe Biden didn't go with a Hispanic running mate. Maybe it was just like a who was the best fit at the time, and Kamala Harris did have a decent, like, you know, profile at the time of the election to take advantage of. But in terms of which voting blocks you need to sway most, black voters are heavily inclined towards the Democrats already. Hispanic voters much less so. I feel like if you're going to, like, you know, cynically invoke identity politics as a way of courting voters, which is, by the way, how the game is played. Sorry. I feel like that might have been a little, maybe a better option. You know, she's Asian too. Kamala Harris is Asian, but, like, realistically, I don't think she's thought of that way, right? Like, she is Asian, but in terms of, like, voter perception, I don't think people think like, oh yeah, that's our Asian representation, you know. Yeah, America's protesting at the moment. A tweet from Merrick. They're trying to arrest us all for marching in the streets. They just arrested an elderly woman and almost pepper sprayed some 120-pound soaking wet girl in spandex with clearly no weapons. Listen, okay, cops, cops need to get their kicks too, all right? Terrorizing the defenseless is what they want, and they have a hard job, and I don't understand why you're trying to take that from them. A cab includes the police. Really? Obama's white, but nobody thinks... Oh, yeah, you know, whatever. Do you think Kamala would lose in a general if Biden didn't run again? Kamala would get stomped. Nobody knows or cares about Kamala, and every fucking time she's in front of a camera, she comes across as insufferable. Like, I'm sorry. She does not... Like, she's not as bad as Hillary in this respect, you know? But she's, like, boring and condescending and perceptively inactive, you know? I haven't really looked into what she's done since the presidency began. What matters is that I haven't heard about what she's done, you know? That may seem unfair, but, like, it's politics, you know? She has no presence as a VP. Yeah. Obviously, you know, Joe Biden didn't have that much of a presence as VP under Obama, but Joe Biden did have some other stuff going for him. The main thing is that Joe Biden is funny and endearing. Whatever you may think about Joe Biden, it remains a fact that in front of a camera, he's pretty likable. He is. He's like an ancient dude. He's just like an ancient good old boy, you know? He's accidentally funny all the time. And that is appealing, and that does work for him in politics. Kamala does not have... Like, it's all about, like, presentation and appeal, right? You know, Hillary Clinton, one of her main failings is that she's just fundamentally unlikable. It is impossible to like Hillary Clinton. The only way you can like Hillary Clinton is if you're sexist and you hate men and you just want women to succeed. Like, she's just very unlikable, you know? Joe Biden is a likable guy. Legit. He's a likable guy, you know? He ended up, corn cob, it's fine. Obama, I don't know if he definitely comes across as likable, but he's also, like, ridiculously charismatic. Obama's one of the most charismatic presidents in American history. Probably the most charismatic president we've ever had since the invention of the television. It's ridiculous how charismatic he is. So that works for you. Trump is not charismatic, but if you're into that kind of person, he's incredibly likable, you know? I mean, he has a presence. But what does Kamala Harris have? Like, seriously, Lord knows I've watched plenty of interviews and press briefings and this, that, and the other. What does Kamala Harris have? She does not have that likable energy. And I hope, I don't want this to be like a gender thing, you know? Because I know that it's like the whole boss versus bossy thing where, like, when women are assertive or whatever, it's like perceived worse. Now, mind you, that implicit gender bias is present in literally hundreds of millions of voters. So even if it's not fair, it's something you have to keep in mind. But from my perspective, I do feel like Kamala Harris just is not very charismatic and is not very appealing. I actually preferred Elizabeth Warren, frankly. I hate her because of what she did to Bernie in 2020. But if you like strip that away and you're just like appreciating Elizabeth Warren just like talking to a camera, I actually think she's got like a really good like librarian energy that is really likable and non-threatening, you know? And I think that's nice. Yeah, so I can't fault her for that. I actually didn't think that Tulsi Gabbard was unlikable, and I still don't think she's unlikable in terms of her personality. It's her politics and her honesty that I find reprehensible. In terms of her charisma, her ability to command presence, you know, I think Tulsi is I think Tulsi's just fine, so she's funny sounding as fuck. Yeah, I'm not saying she's perfect. I definitely think she's more appealing just in a charismatic sense than Kamala, or certainly more than Hillary, you know. My humble opinion. Well, she's definitely changed in the past few years, but she's drank the Kool-Aid. Yeah. New segment about why you support abortion for the current situation. My arguments on abortion haven't really changed. Like, the problem is this whole argument about when life begins is fundamentally metaphysical. If you arbitrarily make the decision that human beings have souls and the souls are present from conception, then like no argument I throw out there is going to change that. I would simply beat you to death with a club. Like, the arguments aren't, you know, it's not sufficient. It's just boring to have these, you know. Yeah, you can argue the bodily autonomy thing, but it's pretty easy to defeat the bodily autonomy argument as well. Like, all you have to do is say, like, yeah, well, abortion leads to the death of millions of infant souls every single year, so I think that reasonable secessions to bodily autonomy are necessary to preserve that. We already have violations of bodily autonomy, even in a medical context. There are already things that people in an ambulance will do to your body without your permission or consent if you're, like, passed out or whatever. The fetus is passed out. It can't give its consent to anything, so some actions taken to defend it or not. Like, you could do this for, like with a sufficiently charismatic person, you could argue your way around anything. The sufficient counter argument is beating them to death with a club. Okay, that's it. That's all you need to do. Just hit them with a club and just be done with it. If fetuses have souls, abortion launch them straight to heaven. No, I believe it's considered that aborted fetuses go to purgatory. They're denied heaven or hell for all eternity. But they're also like fetuses. They're basically just like idiots in purgatory, right? Like, they're basically just like floating there, like buh, right? Not even like buh, because they're like fetuses. It depends on who you ask. It varies. Well, it's all made up. The Catholic Church retcon the purgatory fetuses. Thank you, Catholic Church. Great. Well, if all the fucking aborted fetuses go to heaven, then shit, what's the point? Wait, if the purpose of living a life of suffering on earth is to prove your moral worth to God, to determine where you spend your eternity, wouldn't going to heaven after an abortion be like the fucking cheat code, like a shortcut? Wouldn't that be better? Like, hey, we can maximize the number of people who go to heaven. All we have to do is abort them because it's presumed. Yeah, the fast pass. No, that's not how it works. That's not how purgatory works. It's not real. I don't care. Shh. Now, shh.